Hello friends, my name is Masu. Today we shall discuss about topic the serverless computing. Friend, today's topic is very interesting, especially if you have interest in cloud computing and serverless environment and you want to learn about it. So let's start, friend. Friend, first of all, we have to understand that what is basically computing. Whenever we talk about computing, basically we are referring to remote servers at which different services like software based services, hardware, like the platform as a service and database storage, etc. So these sorts of services are available remotely and we are accessing those services through the internet. This is the called as the concept of computing, cloud computing. Now serverless computing, basically friend, we know that whenever we are working in any IT based environment, there is a server who is basically processing the request from the clients, and it is processing those requests, and then it is sending back the response to the client. Simply it is called as, simply in simple way, it is called as client server architecture. Whenever we talk about cloud computing, there is a concept of serverless. Now what is basically the meaning of serverless? That means there is no server, or there is no you can say there is no concept of server. Basically friends, serverless computing is a cloud computing execution model where the cloud provider, like for example AWS, Google, Microsoft, dynamically manages the allocation and provisioning of server. So whenever you are requesting to the server or executing the code, you basically doesn't need to worry about that which server is responding to the request. In a serverless architecture, developers can focus on writing code without worrying about the underlying infrastructure, because infrastructure is basically managed by the cloud computing provider. So this model is often referred to as a function as a service, or FaaS, because the primary unit of execution is the function. Now what is basically a function? Basically friend, a function in computer terminology is basically a thing which is a task which basically performed to produce some result actually. Friend, here are the key aspects of the serverless computing. First we talk about event driven. Serverless computing is event driven, meaning functions are triggered by specific events on request. These events can include HTTP request, changes to data in a database, file uploads, or custom events within an application. Then statelessness. Functions in a serverless environment are designed to be stateless, meaning they don't retain any information about invocation, about their state. Any required state is typically stored externally, such as in a database or object storage. Okay, statelessness simply means that it doesn't retain its state. Then scaling. Scaling means that serverless platforms automatically scale the number of instances of a function in response to demand. Many times it happens that, for example, there is some any sale is going on. So in that way, in those days, obviously you need more instances to process the request. In some days there is no such more demand of request or sale is there in business, so you don't need more instances. So when an event occur, the platform provisions the necessary resources to execute the function and then scale down to zero when the function is not in use. This automatic scaling helps in optimizing the cost. Then pay per use. With serverless computing, you only pay for the actual compute resources consumed during the execution of your function. Pay per use means simply, friend, that how much you will use, you will only pay for that. For example, if you are using only 3 instances, so you are only paying for 3 instances. This is in contrast to traditional cloud services where you might pay for a fixed amount of provisioned resources regardless of whether they are actively used or not. Then abstraction of infrastructure means developers do not need to manage or provision servers, they only need to focus on writing code. The cloud providers take care of the infrastructure, handling tasks such as server provisioning, maintenance, and scaling. Friend, we know that whenever we are working in any IT based organizations, there are basically technical or IT based engineers who are managing the infrastructure. Normally in an organization are on premises, that they have a data center in which the servers are residing. However, whenever we are working in cloud based environment, so infrastructure is basically basically managed by the cloud providers like Amazon or Google or Microsoft. So basically they are the custodian, they are basically the owner of the infrastructure. They know that what are the servers which needs to be increased, what are the instances which needs to be increased. So as a developer, you need only to focus on your code, on your logic, on your business, and you don't need to worry about the infrastructure. Then short-lived executions means serverless functions are designed to be short-lived, typically executing for a few seconds or minute. Long-running tasks are better suited for other computing models. Then supported languages. Serverless platforms support a variety of programming languages, allowing developers to choose the language they are most comfortable with. Commonly supported languages include like Python, JavaScript like Node.js, Java, C Sharp, and many more. Vendor lock-in means that one challenge with serverless computing is the potential for vendor lock-in. Each cloud provider has its own serverless platform, and moving functions between providers may require modifications due to differences in their implementation. So, basically popular serverless platforms include AWS Lambda, Azure Functions, Google Cloud Functions, and others. These platforms provide tools and services to deploy, manage, and monitor serverless functions. Serverless computing is especially suitable for applications with sporadic or variable workloads, where the ability to scale quickly in response to demand is very crucial. So now friend, we can talk about real-time examples. Friend, several real-world examples illustrate the practical applications of serverless computing. For example, web applications. Friend, serverless platforms can host static web pages and handle dynamic content generation. AWS Lambda, for example, can be used to run code in response to HTTP request, making it suitable for building serverless web applications. Okay. Then data processing means serverless functions can be triggered to process and transform images or videos when they are uploaded to cloud storage. This is useful for tasks like resizing images, extracting metadata, or creating thumbnails. AWS Lambda and Google Cloud Functions are commonly used for such scenarios. Then IoT, Internet of Things. Friend, serverless computing is well suited for handling events generated by IoT devices. For instance, when a sensor detects a specific condition, a serverless function can be triggered to process and respond to the event. AWS IoT and Azure IoT Hub integrate with serverless platforms for such use cases.